Welcome to our conversation about Hatha Yoga. Undoubtedly, we may have come across the term Hatha Yoga on the schedule. Right? There's Vinyasa Yoga at 4 o'clock, and then Power Yoga at 5, and then Restorative at 6, and 7 o'clock at night. It's time for the Hatha Yoga, and we go through the list, and we might have different associations as to what each of those classes mean. This one I'm going to get sweaty. This one I use a lot of props. And then there's the Hatha Yoga. That's the one where I wear the sweatpants and they use the incense. Those kinds of associations we might attribute to Hatha Yoga. And what I want to suggest is, or not rather suggest, but clarify, is that Hatha Yoga is a multifaceted system for approaching the spiritual ideal of yoga. Spiritual ideal, on the one hand, as in transcend and grow and evolve and receive subtler layers of our being and connect more intimately with the source of life. A spiritual methodology in that regard. And it's also a method or a technique to help us live more harmoniously within our embodied existence. So enjoy greater health and greater vitality and peace of mind on a daily basis, having means or a toolbox by which we can become more, can self-regulate. Those are all waypoints in the system of Hatha Yoga. And it's that doesn't happen solely through the medium of asana. Asana is one methodology within the greater toolbox of Hatha Yoga. In fact, there's 6 other tools in the Hatha Yoga system. So Hatha Yoga is a 7-limb system for spiritual growth, as well as being more for health and wellness and living a vital existence. The basic arc of those methodologies moves from the most exterior or peripheral, the outer body, into the most subtle or rarefied interior aspects of our being. The first limb is something called Shatkarma. And what Shatkarma means is the 6 purificatory methods. One that you may recognize is simply neti. This gets prescribed in doctors' offices throughout the country and probably the world at this point. It's a saline rinse. You pour through one nasal passage and out the other side, and conversely, go back and forth like this to cleanse the sinuses and the nasal passages so that you can breathe more fully, which of course is paramount in yoga practice, and that could be a whole course unto itself, just the optimizing breath. So neti, or gel neti, water rinsing, is an example of one of the 6 purificatory techniques, and they're very visceral and bodily. The second is asana, right? Which literally means a seat, not only, and probably historically, a more meditative seat, as opposed to handstand or crow pose or a more elaborate seat that we commonly call asana these days. Not only does it mean seat, but it also means the manner in which you occupy the seat. So the quality of your attention is as much a part of the asana as the outer peripheral body or the pose that you're assuming. Right? So it's what you bring to the pose as well you could be distracted and when's this class going to be over, or so forth. That would, and be doing an amazingly deep forward fold all the while. Yet the quality of attention, when's this class going to be over, is detracting from the richness of the asana, or the fullness of the asana. Or better example, look at me, I'm the one crushing it with the handstand in the room, is led you further astray from the asana rather than a deeper embodiment of the pose. So asana, the second one, which we've cherry picked off the Hatha Yoga system, the 7-limb system, and ran with as though it were the entirety of yoga, right? And so there's Hatha Yoga, and then there's many different layers and systems of this principle of yoga, spiritual ideal of yoga. And buried within Hatha Yoga, there's a second limb, and that happens to be asana. And then, well, lo and behold, this, expand that beyond what it was really intended to do, which is to prepare you for the other limbs, to develop bodily awareness and health and so forth, so that you can essentially sit for meditation. But along the way, we also learn bandha and mudra. And bandha and mudra, each of these limbs can be a course unto itself, but means locks and seals. So it's a way of containing energy in the body. Gestures such as janda, bandha, the throat lock, allow you to hold the breath in more effectively. Mudras, we commonly know hand mudras, for example, but there's other mudras you do with the pelvis or the whole body or the face, and etc. Bandhas and mudras, phase 2, 3. From there, now that we have some mechanism by which we can begin to control and regulate energy inside of the body, so regulate prana inside. So if we started with that peripheral jalneti, or the saline rinse, and then move into the visceral movement of the body, now we're doing bodily gestures, bandhas and mudras, to control energy inside. That's our deeper purpose or intent. It's getting subtler. And then we move subtler still into pranayama, or breathing techniques, in which we're extracting very vital force or life essence or prana from the air and infusing it into the system such that we're capable of deeper levels of insight and greater health and vitality. There's so many applications or moldings or shapings of prana that can be applied in support of those goals. So subtler manipulation of prana through pranayama, which can be translated in a couple different ways. There's prana, life force, and ayama means, so yama means restraint. So pranayama means restraint, as in yama and niyamas from Patanjali system, if you're familiar with that. Restraint or holding. You could also put the A in front of it and it becomes the opposite, which is not restraint and holding, but rather expansion. So the restraining, the holding of the breath or the life force, as well as the expansion of the life force. You can access these through the quote breathing techniques of pranayama. From there, we move into deeper levels of so even more interior, dharana, concentration. So those initial stages of meditation. It's likened to if you take a pitcher and you pour it out, and the fragmented stream that comes out is the quality of attention, which then leads to dhyana, which is if you took a pitcher of oil and poured it out, it would be one singular, seemingly unmoving stream. Dhyana, so it's much more focused or concentrated. And then finally, samadhi, which is super conscious absorption, in which the subject, the one who is observing the object, say a candle flame, has merged or dissolved. It's just one phenomenal experience. There's no longer me over here and that object that keeps flickering in and out of my attention, but rather a wholehearted degree of absorbed attention that is all encompassing. That's one way to approach or simply relate to this idea of samadhi. And there's various layers or stages even within samadhi to where that relationship is further delineated and defined, and elements of time and space and causality are teased apart into greater degrees of insight until one discovers the source of awareness itself, that spiritual ultimate. And along the way, there's progressive steps like this, moving from the most peripheral into the most subtle and interior. That's the system of Hatha Yoga. And I haven't seen it yet. Maybe it's still out there, but perhaps that makes it onto the class description. If you find one of those, please let me know. I'd love to attend that class. All right. Be well, friends.